Hello friends, Reckless Tempest, top 16 Seasons play here. Today we're going to be going over Lor-Meta's weekly meta report, which contains the best decks we should be using to grind ladder, highest decks by play rate, and the best versions of those decks that we should be playing. Linked to the articles and deck codes are in the description. Jumping straight into the goods, we see that Kennen Ezreal Ionia is the deck that we should be grinding ladder with according to the stats, with a power score of 100, and a power score is basically a deck's rating based off of its win rates against all the decks in the field, which is the whole ladder, and then you balance that out based off of how often those decks appear. Obviously, Israel Kennen has great matchups against all the popular decks. You can still have bad matchups against popular decks. For example, Israel Kennen only has a 45% win rate against Pirates, and that's a very popular deck, but because it's beating the crap out of all the other decks, it has a massive power score rating. The second deck is Twisted Fate Nami Ionia. I brought this up last week. Instead of playing Shadow Owls, it's playing Ionia. And it's got some really interesting stuff, as we can see here. Heavy Metal is just a very versatile removal spell, but with equipment being good, you know, it's gone up in value. Disciple is great for Nami. It'll help you churn through spells, trigger flow, but also trigger Nami proc, and give you something to spend banked mana on. The third deck at 79 is Katarina Gwen. Basically, this version is very similar to the ones we've seen previously, but it appears that Burgeoning Sentinel has become more popular than before, and that's partially because it gets turned on by the removal spells the deck plays. So you're playing a 1 mana 3/3 fearsome in an aggressive deck. Seems to synergize very well with the deck's inherent plan of being essentially this very tricky kind of rally aggro deck where we're using Rune Reckoners to attack multiple times with Gwens and Katarina. Also with Eternal Dancers and Rune Reckoner, you can do the rally chain and just GG your opponent if they're short on interaction on a key turn. The fourth deck is my beloved Pirate Aggro deck at 73.9, and this list is the same as the one I showcased last week. It's playing Hookmaster instead of Legion Grenadier because making weapons, and then weapons are very good. And being able to use those weapons later on in the game gives you even more late game power that this archetype maybe didn't deserve through Ayanaga Kaboros and Riptide Sermon. Also, if you haven't lived until you've gotten the scout equipment on Zap Sprayfin with MF in play, it's disgusting. The last deck that I'm going to be going over is Vijax at a power score of basically 74. This is the concurrent timeline deck. A lot of things have happened to this archetype in the last, 6 days I think it's been, since the last meta video. And what we're seeing is now we're starting to see more entrancing lures. There was like a kind of shift between like how much burn the deck's supposed to run. Too Excited was the most interesting thing I found. I guess this is just to kind of fill up the curve to make sure you find the relevant pieces of action. Two Blades of the Fallen just as a nice proc for I don't know, just Blades of the Fallen. Reasonable card. Reasonable card. The takeaways for this article: play Ezreal Kennen. But if you aren't super comfortable with the deck and maybe, you're not super good at it or whatever, right? Ionia decks are kind of hard. Pirate Aggro still has a very high meta score and still has a very high power score, so I'd recommend trying that out still if you do need something to grind with. And if you're hitting weird parts in the meta where it seems like everyone's just being a dirty net decker, it has a very high meta score, so if you run into like the try hard clock, time of the ladder, it'll be fine. Lastly, a top 10 archetype play rate. We have Pirates number 1 at 47.4. And lastly, for top archetype play rate, we have Pirates at number 1, 14.7%. Massive, great deck, super good. I've really enjoyed it myself. Katarina Gwen at 8.9, small increase. Ezreal Kennen Ionia up to 6%. Nice little climb with 2.5%. Obviously, this is gaining more traction as it's just winning more and more. Trundle concurrent timelines with Caitlyn, 5.5, followed by Gnosis Kindred, followed by Lee Sin Auction. Again, this is just kind of an equipment deck. Vijax has, I think this is technically fallen because this is the first report of this patch, and so it's a new deck, it's counting it as new, but I'm pretty sure the play rate of this deck was significantly higher than 3.9% in the last video. TF Nami at 4%, Evelyn Vega 3.5 and Lurk has actually seen a bit of resurgence at spot number 10. I don't know why. It doesn't really have good matchups. I think people are just memeing around with it, honestly. So yeah, that's the video. If you enjoyed it and you found value out of it, I'd really appreciate it if you decimated that like button. Yours costs 0 and it helps promote this content to other people that might like it. And if you want more card game goodness, click that subscribe button. See you next time.